When she saw the familiar face of Blaine's fiancée, Zoe's face paled, and she quickly jumped down from the sink counter. Blaine shifted his gaze back to Zoe. He looked down at her with stormy eyes, as if he was waiting for Zoe's decision. Seeing Zoe biting her lips and not saying anything, Blaine decided for her. "I'll open the door." "No!" Zoe stretched out her hand to stop him. Blaine turned his head to look at her again. His eyes darkened. His lips were slightly cold as he knowingly asked, "Why?" Zoe took a deep breath, feigning indifference. "Didn't we agree not to let her know?" Blaine's eyes flickered with traces of shock and hostility. "Zoe, what if I say that I want to break off my engagement to her for you?" Zoe didn't expect him to say such a thing so suddenly. She was stunned, and her mind went blank for a few seconds before she snapped out of her daze and shook her head. "Blaine, don't be impulsive." "Impulsive?" Blaine smiled at Zoe as if he had heard the funniest joke he'd ever heard from her. "Zoe, do you think that what I feel for you is an impulse?" Zoe's entire head felt slightly dizzy. She didn't expect the whole thing to end like this. Zoe shook her head awkwardly as she steeled her heart and forced herself to say, "Blaine, I never wanted you to break off your engagement to her for me. And I never meant to be with you, just to make a deal with you. You've misunderstood." "Say what you just said again," Blaine yelled, his body exploding with hostility. Zoe could clearly see the fury in his eyes. He reached out his hands and restrained Zoe, pulling her into his arms. He glared at Zoe with hatred. "Zoe, repeat what you just said to me." Zoe's heart ached to look at the cold, sullen look on his face. With tears rolling down her face, she repeated herself. "I never wanted to be with you. I only approached you for money. I don't want Sophia to know about my relationship with you. I never meant to be with you, just to make a deal with you. Do you understand?" Zoe's words were like sharp blades, piercing straight into Blaine's heart. All of a sudden, he felt like a huge fool. For the sake of this woman, he would do anything. He thought her intentions were the same as his own, but what about the result? In the end, he was just a long-term meal ticket for her. Blaine gripped Zoe's wrist tightly. His fingers dug into Zoe's skin, causing her to frown in pain. Suddenly, without any warning, Zoe was brought along by Blaine and pushed against the cold tile wall of the bathroom. She felt a gust of cold air rush by her face before a heavy, muffled sound sounded in her ear. Blaine had punched the wall beside Zoe's face, releasing all the anger and hatred in his heart. "You're bleeding!" Zoe was so anxious that she reached out to grab his injured hand, but he abruptly stopped her. Blaine pressed Zoe heavily against the cold tile wall. A pair of cold eyes stared fixedly at Zoe, as if they wanted to tear her apart and devour her. Blaine roared at Zoe. Zoe was truly shocked. She had seen Blaine angry before, but she had never seen him this angry. He was completely enraged. His voice was as cold as ice, and the hostility surrounding his body was shocking. Zoe trembled as she bit her lips. She stared at him tearfully, looking into his furious eyes. She could see the fury in his eyes, but Zoe could also see the pain in them. Seeing his anger and pain, her heart hurt so much that it felt like it was being torn apart. He pressed Zoe against the wall, and she heard his cold, pain-filled words. "Zoe, you're despicable." She collapsed against Blaine's shoulder and burst into tears. She wished that she could tell him how much she loved him, how much she wanted to be with him. But with so many obstacles in her way, what could the path ahead bring them other than more pain and terror? When Zoe thought of how Catherine Dexter had threatened their son time and time again, she didn't dare to defy his mother. Because with every step she took, she was betting on Max's life. No mother would gamble their child's life in such a way. The sound of Zoe crying was like a sharp saw slicing into Blaine's heart. He leaned over Zoe, both of his arms braced on the wall beside her head. Blaine panted heavily, and the beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. He could feel that his back was drenched in blood. His movements just now aggravated his injury, causing his wound to open. But Blaine didn't feel any pain in his back. The pain in his heart, so great, it drowned out everything else.
Hi, Zoe here. If you are wondering what happens next, then download the Pocket FM app and listen to the exciting episodes of Rekindled Heartache now.